Good evening. Hello, everybody. You're very welcome to our CAO information evening. And this is the Business Law and Criminology webinar. My name is Judith Caffrey, and I work with the Admissions Office. And I'm joined here this evening by Professor Joseph Coughlin, who is the head of the School of Business, by Professor Fergus Ryan, who is the head of the School of Law and Criminology, and by two of our students, Jamie and Amy. So we have a packed schedule, lots of speakers, which is great. So I will hand over to Professor Joseph Coughlin to begin proceedings. And we do invite your questions into the chat. So please type away as you feel free to do so as we go along. Okay, thanks.
Great. Thanks very much for that introduction, Judith, and welcome everybody. And thanks for taking the time this evening to come and hear a little bit more about the School of Business and its programs, and the School of Law and Criminology and its programs as well. And incidentally, we have joint programs as well, so you'll hear from some programs more than once. Feel free to put in questions as we go along. So the plan is we're going to talk for 15 to 20 minutes and then switch over to law and criminology, and then have a little bit more time at the end for more questions. But feel free to ask questions as you go along. As Jude said, we have some students here from both groups, so they might be someone you might want to chat to as well if you haven't been to our earlier webinar for the students. So I'm going to start off by talking about why you might want to do a career in business and talk about the importance of that kind of area, and then take you through the main areas of our degrees and a little bit about the programs themselves. I'm going to talk about some of the key features, including placement, and then I'm going to get Jamie Cullen, one of our final year students who's been on placement, to have a little chat with you about his experience and how that worked, and then back to me for the end. So about 15 to 20 minutes of that. So starting off then, why would you want to study business? Why do you think that would be something that might be useful for you? So what we would say is that all organizations, no matter where they are, have to raise finance and account for their income and expenditure. So that's whether you are a family business, a huge multinational business, it doesn't make any real difference. You still have to be able to do that. Also, if you're government, I mean, we have budgets that you probably would have heard about over the last couple of months coming up in the government, and also like how we're going to do spending on various different infrastructure and stuff like that. And then almost every product and service you use and value. So if you're watching this on your phone or on a laptop or on a computer, you have purchased that, you value it, you make sure that it's virus protected and everything's backed up and all that kind of stuff. But all your clothing, everything you eat, and in fact, everything we do is delivered through some form of business, be that a business to consumer, so you bought it directly, or you bought it, or you got a service from government, for example, or you're getting a service from some other entity. Promoted through a marketing aspect. So in other words, how do you find out about these things? How do we find out what consumers and customers like you and I need and want? And how do we, in some ways, maybe slightly manipulate that and help companies to get a market for their goods, and organize through a management process. Many of you will have purchased goods online and got them delivered. Maybe you're someone on Temu or you're Shein or you're Vinted or one of those kind of areas. And you have to think about, when you buy something on that, how does the product actually get to you? My father has recently found my Amazon account, so I get very experienced in doing that kind of stuff at the moment. So, but business graduates, I suppose, if you decide to invest 3 to 4 years in a degree in business, are consistently among the most unemployable in Ireland, which is a very open and entrepreneurial and internationally focused economy. And those of you who can see that some of those words on my slides are in color, and that's on purpose. It's to say that basically that these are the key areas of business, and these are the key areas that our programs operate within. So in terms then of the choice that we offer here at Maynooth University, we have an unrivaled, we believe, choice of programs, a mix of business and other subjects. So starting on the top right, as you look at it, we have our degree in marketing. We have a degree in business and management, which is our largest undergraduate program, a degree in international business, degree in entrepreneurship, a degree in quantitative finance, a new BBS in finance. So if you're aware of our portfolio in the past, we had a degree in finance in the past. This is a newer and improved version. A degree in accounting and finance, if you want to be a qualified accountant. A degree in business and accounting also allows you to be a qualified accountant. And then two Bachelor of Corporate Law programs, one in Law and Business and one in Law and Accounting, where you do 50% of both. We have a BSc in Business with Sports Science. Our first graduates in that will graduate this year. And we have a BBA in Business and Languages, which includes the opportunity to study marketing, management, international business, or accounting with French, German, Spanish, or Mandarin Chinese. And then we also have a double degree with business and global cultures. So that's with our anthropology department here in the university, looking at how internationalization works in a different way. And if you're not sure in first year of any of those and which one to do, other than the sports science one, you can go into our arts degree in first year and transfer into any of those once you pick a certain selection of subjects and meet certain requirements at the end of first year. So in other words, not only do we allow you to choose any one of these many, many programs and choose the one that suits you best, if you're still not sure, you can still do the arts degree in first year and then transfer into and keep your options open for many of these programs as you go along. So I just wanted to put up some images to give you an idea of the different types of roles and that you could be working with in this type of environment. So an industrial factory, you might think, well, I'm going to be doing a business degree. What does that mean to me? Well, many of our graduates are working in pharmaceutical firms. They're working in technical engineering firms, but in a management and marketing role. And many of them are working as senior managers in those kind of areas, managing processes, supply chains, and so on. We also have uh, a pitch there of a surgery in operation. That's to represent that we're also in the health field, and we have a new nursing degree, as many of you will be aware. We also have a number of health research and health areas across the university, but particularly in business and also in law and criminology, where we look at health issues. But also there are opportunities there in that kind of caring professions along with business as well. Pilots, we all like to travel, so maybe air travel is not probably the most ecological at the moment, but it is something that a lot of people do. So the travel and tourism industry is a significant industry in Ireland, and we do that. Um, Public service through the Garda Síochána or others doesn't mean you have to be a guard, but it does mean that you can work for the public service and provide business services to individuals and companies. Many of our government people who work in government have business backgrounds, and then sport. Other than the sports science itself, there are great careers in tourism and leisure, and these are things that our business graduates would also work in that particular area. So now I want to go through quite quickly just the kind of key areas rather than focusing in on degrees and degrees and degrees. I just want to focus a little bit on the area itself so you get a bit of an idea of what it means. So what is management? It's about organization, getting the right pieces, then make sure they're in the right places at the right time. So if you order, jeans with a certain waist size and a certain length, and you want them by next week, well then, that has to happen, or else you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be satisfied. So to get that, you need clear communication, and you also need clear leadership from the company to get things done through and with other people. So you're managing people, soft skills, but also managing processes and technologies. For example, one of our colleagues here is doing a big project on renewable energy, and they've designed a new plug to help you think about when to use energy and so on. So that has to be made, has to be delivered. People have to adopt it, people have to use it, and hopefully it'll help their electricity bill. That's something that maybe some of you will see coming down the road from our research in the next while. Marketing is about a process of exchange, something you have for something you want to have. So you might, for example, have a Spotify account. So do you pay for it, or do you pay for it by listening to ads? If you have a Netflix account, you pay for that, or hopefully you do pay for it, or maybe it's borrowed from a friend and you share accounts. But we also have bigger things like Meteor, which is an old account, rebranding to Air. And you'd also see that we link our brands with national conversations through sponsorship, through GAA and Centra. But marketing's obviously getting a little less obvious these days. So, for example, things like you might have seen the media about the Golden Globes in the last few hours, last day or so. What are people wearing? And these designers give clothes to men and women and people who are up for awards in the hope that they'll be photographed, the hope that they'll win, and the hope that the name of that particular designer will become part of the way we think about luxury and think about that kind of stuff, and maybe might influence us to purchase for ourselves some of their maybe cheaper products. International business then is primarily about business involving two or more countries or business involving people or groups from different countries. One of the probably misconceptions about this is, do I need a language to do international business? You can, and we offer four languages degrees with international business. But you can also do international business in Ireland. Many Irish businesses are international. They sell abroad, often to different countries. We also need to know how to manage people and organizations in very globalized, turbulent economies and societies. I mean, this is not a political discussion, but there's a lot of turbulence going on at the moment, in all parts of the world, um, in an increasingly connected world. So being able to manage multicultural teams and understand cultural differences and understand that different groups of people have different ways of thinking and doing, all of which are very positive and we can learn a lot from. And how to harness that and work with that is what international business is really about. Entrepreneurship is the activity of setting up a business. A certain woman that I know the slide perhaps small on your screen, a certain Ms. Jenner has actually graced the screens in a number of reasons due to her partner at the moment. But in general, she's better known for her makeup lines, and she was down as one of America's billionaires. Forbes magazine put her up as that. It's interesting to note that by the time she was in that magazine a couple of years ago, she probably wasn't a billionaire, but she is now, I'm sure. It was if you think about it, selling it's still a lot of lip gloss to get to billions. But it's also how to innovate in larger organizations. So large organizations also need to be good at setting up businesses and new ideas and making things work. Here in Maynooth, we set up new programs. That's our way of looking at that and new ways to ensure that our students get the best education possible. We also pride ourselves in this university on social justice and social entrepreneurship, so changing society through innovative solutions. And we have a final year module, which a lot of our students take, where you look at world problems and problems that people have and try to come up with ways that we can generate business ideas from those to help people. Not necessarily to make a lot of money, but also to help people and ways to do that and ways to avoid waste and so on. In terms of finance, finance is a science that focuses on the management, creation, and study of money, banking, credit, investments, assets, and liabilities. So very technical terms there, but looking at how the world works from a finance perspective. So why is the price of chocolate the way it is? Why do we have spikes in the price of coffee? Why do certain products cost us more? What does Bitcoin really mean? How is it valued? Um, how do we work out the value and allocation of money over time? How do we know if a stock price is going to go up or down? We don't actually, but we do try. And we use very similar tools used by economists and tackle similar issues and some different ones as well, but mainly focusing in on on money and working out how and what happens it and the assets and things you can buy with money. Accounting then is the last of one of these areas I'm going to talk about. So accountants, many people think are people who just have count lots of things one after the other. And you think of, if you did it in school, you're thinking of maybe balance sheets and profit and loss accounts, but it's a lot more than that. It's helping businesses make investments, source finance for new projects. Many accountants end up managing businesses, helping people understand financial products like pensions, which are now mandatory, understanding economic development at the highest level, but also helping businesses develop. And we have a good professional links with many of the accountancy firms and the public accountancy bodies, which you can see on screen there. Um, we also have placement, and in placement you can work for 1 year. We require 9 months, but many people work for longer. This improves your employability. It's paid, and in fact, it's over 99%. Some people do elect to have programs unpaid, but generally they're paid. And it's a choice on many of our programs. I'm not going to go through them all, but there's a big long list of them there. And we have a placement semester on our quantitative finance degree. It's not compulsory on any of the degrees, but it is increasingly popular with over 35% of our students taking a placement. And we have a placement evening and a program to assist in that choice. So I'm going to ask our final year marketing student, Jamie Cullen, to spend a couple of minutes to talk to you about his experience of getting placement and how placement works.
Yeah, so in my case, I'm in my final year now, but in second year, I had the choice between studying abroad, completing placement, or going straight into my final year. I eventually decided that I would go and try and look for work placement. And in trying to find a placement, there's lots of different supports available from Maynooth to help you with this. So, for example, there's the Placement Connect website, which offers specific placement roles that are being promoted to Maynooth students only. And as well as this, it offers CV advice, interview advice, and at each step of your application, you can get one-on-one help. So you can book in time with a careers advisor. And when you are applying for work placement, you are given a weekly class to kind of discuss the various aspects, such as fixing up your CV or help with being confident in an interview, for example. In my case, I was lucky I was able to get a placement in Samsung Electronics, working on their online store. And when I was there, I also had an assignment due from college. And in this assignment, it focused a bit more on the soft skills you're learning. And what I found is that it really helped with putting into words exactly the skills you're learning. So, for example, it would ask you to describe a time you use teamwork and specific methods of like describing it, if that makes sense. And it just really helps with being able to understand exactly what you're learning throughout your time on placement. And as well as this, depending on where you go, of course, but a lot of companies nowadays for their placement schemes will offer like learning and development. So, say in my time at Samsung, I had a 3 hour AI training one day, for example, and I had a project management training day as well. So, depending on where you go, of course, you will get loads of learning and development available as well as your work. And finally, there, of course, it's the end of placement review. So, in my role in particular, I had a presentation on the skills I've learned and some of the goals that I had. And I also had a placement project in my job where we raised money for charity in our specific case. And then, as well as this, it's also the university handbook and assignment, which, as I mentioned previously, helps you just understanding what skills you've learned. So, yeah, I would recommend it.
Right. Thanks very much for that, Jamie. So Jamie's in his final year, and thanks to him and Amy, they're in the middle of exams at the moment. So it's a very kind of them to take the evening to come talk to us. And Jamie's one of many students who worked on placement in the last year, and we've many more on placement this year. So other internships there with some examples along the way. So you can see there's many accountancy firms, many multinational firms, but also many small local firms and large local firms as well. You can also, as Jamie mentioned, study abroad. So you can have an academic year in one of our partner universities that can be studied with the language, French, German, Spanish, or Chinese, and it's mandatory on our business and languages degree. But on other programs, all our programs, it's possible to go abroad, and that can be through English, that could be in Europe, North America, it can be in Australia and in Asia, and quite a lot of European universities run programs through English. So it's very easy to kind of manage that if you wish to do it, and employers really like that as well. Again, the choice is made during second year. So this is our full list of programs. Again, just so you have a list of those, and this presentation will be recordings available to you. What would you study? Generally, first year tends to be a list of subjects around managing people for the management stuff, some economics, some accounting, general business. Second year then gets a bit more specialized. In a general business degree, you'd study marketing, human resource management, etc. Third year, typically students go abroad or have a work placement, and then they come back and do a final year with us back again. Some general questions we get asked is, do you need to have studied economics, accounting, or business for Leaving Cert? No, you don't. Don't require any of those. We start from scratch. Do you have to be good at maths? We require a minimum maths for most of our degrees of a H7 or O4, slightly higher for MH402, which is a quantitative finance degree. So you can probably imagine slightly higher maths required for that. And then a H704 recommended for the arts degree, but not required. Most of our maths would be quite specialized, as in for a particular business purpose. So it's very different from what you do in school. So placement are organized, as Jamie said, with the University Placement Office. It helps you get a placement, and generally through the system he mentioned called Placement Connect, you get a list of placements you can apply for, and then you do interviews. We don't just give you one, you have to go and get one, but it's a really good process to go through when you want a job in the future. In terms of more information, you can go to the maynoothuniversity.ie/business, our website. You can email us for more information at business@mu.ie. And we also have a module description database where we're very open about how we run our programs. So you can put in the course code or the program, and you can get all the modules for every single year and see how they're assessed and see exactly what you will do from year to year. So we're very transparent and open about that. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to close off my presentation here and pass you over to Professor Ryan, who's going to talk about law, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe, and thanks very much everybody for joining us today. I'm going to share my slides. We'll see what happens there. I'm a lawyer rather than a computer scientist, so I can't guarantee this is going to work, but let me see. Oh, it might just work. So hopefully people can see the slides there.
Indeed.
Um, um,
That's great. Thanks.
is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That's fine.
Great, thanks so much, and thanks to everybody for joining us this evening. And I'm going to talk specifically about law and criminology. The School of Law and Criminology at Maynooth University is relatively new, but is the largest school of its kind in Ireland. We teach a wide variety of programs in law and criminology, some that just are in law on its own, some that combine law with other disciplines, and we also have a single major in criminology. Just first to say, about Maynooth generally, this is my 11th year or 12th year actually at Maynooth, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being here, and I'm enjoying being here. I think it's a very vibrant and diverse community. It's a very pleasant and convivial location, and if you get a chance, it's well worth coming to Maynooth to see the campus and to see the town. One of the key advantages of studying in Maynooth is the flexibility. What a Maynooth University degree usually provides is the option to combine, let's say, law or criminology or business with a variety of other disciplines. So, for instance, with law, it's possible to combine law with up to 27 other disciplines. We've top class academics, dedicated and friendly support staff in careers, counselling, access. We place a very strong focus on the student experience, and we have active sporting clubs and societies. I think over 90 clubs and societies. And as you can see from that diagram there, we're relatively well connected as well. It is always important when considering where to go to college to look at commuting options, but there are lots of different ways of getting to Maynooth, and we're relatively well connected. You probably are familiar with the concept of law and what is law. Law broadly is the study of two different things. First, the body of rules. To some extent, you're looking at rules that are recognized as binding on people, that are imposed upon and enforced among those people by appropriate sanctions, that if you break the rule, that there's a sanction or a consequence. But law is not just about studying, or indeed it's not solely or even about learning off rules. It's fundamentally about understanding the systems under which rules are made, interpreted. In other words, how do we determine the meaning of a rule if there's a conflict? The process for applying or implementing rules, and the enforcement, and in particular, what happens when a person breaks a rule? What is the consequence of that? So the study of law is useful in various respects. Studying law, I think, offers individuals a keen insight into how societies are regulated and how the legal system operates. Every society has a set of rules, sometimes informal, but usually formal and enforceable and binding. And these are what we would call laws that regulate a society, that control our behavior, that direct us towards doing certain things and to avoiding doing other things. So understanding how the legal system operates is important, and law arguably touches on every aspect of life. If you're a farmer, if you're a teacher, if you're a school principal, if you're working in business, there's law. There's always a law that affects how you do things. So law really affects all parts of our life, and understanding not just the rules that apply in our context, but also the legal systems is very important. Studying law helps you to develop important skills like your ability to argue, reason, persuade, to solve problems, but particularly to avoid problems. A good lawyer is a lawyer that will help you to solve a problem that you have. A very good lawyer is the one that helps you to avoid that problem in the first place, to draft a contract or to plan in such a way that you're avoiding legal difficulties in the future. Law also helps you develop valuable skills. The study of law helps you to develop skills, for instance, in advocacy, writing and research skills, in negotiation and persuasion, and the ability to engage in reasoned argument. Now, I should mention as well criminology. Criminology is not forensic science. It's not studying blood spatter or forensic psychology, for instance. Criminology is the academic study of what is defined as crime, of those who are defined or labeled as criminals, and the causes and effects of what we would call crime. In short, criminology is the study of making laws, the breaking of laws, and how society reacts to those to the breaking of laws. So sometimes people come in thinking criminology is about the investigation of crimes, and that's an element, but a small element. Fundamentally, criminology is about understanding the sociology and the psychology of crime, why people commit crimes or why they don't commit crimes, what factors may propel a person to commit a crime, and how should society best react when somebody breaks those norms? What's the most appropriate response to address that and to prevent it from happening again? Now, there are lots of different undergraduate routes in law. We have a number of postgraduate programs, but broadly speaking, our programs tend to be either single major or double major degrees. So single major is where you just study, for instance, law on its own. So we have a single major in law where you just study law for 4 years. That's the LLB Bachelor of Laws. But most of our students actually study law in combination with other disciplines. So, for instance, the BCL, that's a Bachelor of Civil Law, Law and Business. That's a 3 year degree where you do 50% of your studies in law and 50% in business. And the BCL Law and Accounting, Law and Criminology, and Law and Arts are other examples. The BCL Law and Arts allows you to combine law with a wide variety of arts and humanities subjects, and as well as that, things like maths and computer studies. So with the BCL Law and Art, you could study law in Irish, law in French. There are some combinations that aren't possible, but there's a wide variety of combinations, including things like, as I mentioned before, law and computer science, law and mathematical studies, and law and media studies, another example. We have a BCL Law and Languages, and this allows you to study law in combination with Irish, French, German, or Spanish. It's a 4 year program, and there's a compulsory year abroad as part of it. And the key difference between the BCL Law and Languages and the BCL Law and Arts is that there are integrated modules as part of that. So you can study legal translation, and you can study French law, German law, Spanish law, and law in Irish as options on the program. It's also possible to do law and indeed business and criminology as part of the arts degree, and this is a good option if you're not sure that you want to do law or criminology. You can sign up to MH101, the arts degree, the BA, Bachelor of Arts. And in your first year, you can take up to 4 subjects, and one of those could be law or criminology or business. And you then get to decide in your second year whether you want to stick with those subjects or continue with other subjects. So it's a good one to do for 2 reasons. First, if you're not sure you're going to get the points for the LLB or the BCL, the BA is good to have in your back pocket as a plan B. And secondly, if you're not sure you want to do law, you're not sure you want to commit to law, you want to, the opportunity to test it and see, it can be useful to consider the arts degree. With criminology, there are 3 routes. You can either do criminology as a single major. You can do the BCL Law and Criminology. Both are 3 year degrees. The difference is with the BA Criminology, you're just doing criminology on its own for 3 years. With the BCL Law and Criminology, You can combine law with criminology. And again, criminology is available as part of the arts degree. You can take it as a subject in first year. And basically, if you decide you like it and you pass year one and you pass criminology, you can continue with criminology. But you also have the option to drop it at the end of year one if you feel it's not for you. Um, Both law and criminology, and indeed business as well, can be taken as subjects on the arts degree. There's a lot of flexibility there. There are some combinations that aren't possible, and this is not because we've fallen out with these departments, but for timetabling reasons, some combinations are not possible. Law cannot be combined with geography, philosophy, or German, although you can do law and German on the law and languages degree. And criminology, unfortunately, it's not possible to combine it with business, Greek, or history. And that again is just a timetabling issue. We've had to make a call on that. But the flip side of that is that there's a lot of flexibility. For instance, you can take law in combination with sociology, with Irish, with politics, with economics. You could take criminology with a variety of different languages, or indeed with law. So there's a good bit of flexibility there. And there are also various transfer routes. If you start on year one of the BA, subject to passing year one and subject to passing law in year one, it's possible to transfer from year one of the BA to year two of one of the law degrees, or alternatively, you could stay on the BA, continue it, or drop law. And the same with criminology. It's possible, having completed and passed 15 credits of criminology in the first year, it's possible to transfer into the single major in criminology or stay on the BA. And if you're doing both law and criminology on the BA in year one, you can transfer into the BCL law and criminology. So there are actually the transfers can be quite complicated, but just to reassure you, there are no caps on transfers. There's no limit on the number of people who can transfer into year two of a law degree once they meet the minimum criteria. So we don't cap the numbers who transfer. The more people probably transfer into the BCL than the LLB. So there's quite a lot of students doing a single major in law on the LLB, but more of our students uh, by a well, by a small margin, more of our students will be doing law with something else rather than law just on its own. There are lots of useful opportunities, great career opportunities in law. Law, I think, is something that even if you don't actually want to end up practicing in law, it's a very good subject to have for a wide variety of roles in the public and civil service, for instance, in international organizations and in business as well. And actually, law and business is a very good and quite a popular combination to have for that purpose. There are Erasmus opportunities. Effectively, on the BCL or the BA, you can take an extra year and study abroad with one of our European or international partners. On the LLB, you can take your third year of the LLB, which is a 4-year degree. You can do your third year abroad. There are also placement options on all of our degrees. Placement options are more competitive. They're subject to interview and they're subject to results. So there's no guarantee that placements will be available. But I know that business has a very wide range of placements available. In law, it's a little bit more limited. We have an excellent relationship, however, with major law firms and state agencies. We have a number of mentoring programs, 2 mentoring programs with top Dublin law firms, and we've several internships and scholarships and competitive scholarships with firms like Matheson and Flynn O'Driscoll, A&L Goodbody. So we've been building up those links over the years. Obviously, the doing a law degree, either the BCL or the LLB, is a very good grounding to progress to become a barrister or solicitor. And our denominated law degrees, the LLB and the BCL, are both King's Inns recognised, which means that you can go straight from your degree uh, onto into the entrance exams for the King's Inns, which trains people to become barristers. And having a law degree is also a very good grounding for taking the entrance exams for the Law Society to become a solicitor. You don't necessarily absolutely need to have a law degree to become a lawyer, but it helps. It shortens the route and it makes it easier to pass, I think, the various entrance exams. By the same token, having a law degree doesn't mean you have to be a barrister or solicitor. Lots of people do law degrees and go on to do other things. In terms of the supports and facilities, one key advantage of law and criminology and Maynooth is that we have a lot of academics, we have a lot of modules, there's a lot of choice and options. We have 56 academic staff now, so we're the largest school, certainly in the Republic, the largest law school in the Republic, and we have a lot of students as well. We offer lectures and tutorials. We have a sophisticated virtual learning environment and extensive library resources. We also have a number of active student societies, and we're heavily involved in mooshing, which is where you pretend to be a barrister arguing in court, and negotiation competitions. We host an international negotiation competition and the national moot court competition as well, alongside a variety of other prestigious mooting competitions. So this is really good experience in advocacy and in developing presentation skills. And our degrees focus a lot on not just on learning the law in the relevant area, but also on developing important skills in advocacy and in professional innovation as well. Just some final points to make, and I'm then going to hand over to Amy Hughes. You don't need to study law in university necessarily to become a lawyer. It does make it easier, but it is possible to not to study law in university and then to come back at a later stage. But I think it's probably an easier and more straightforward route to start with a law degree or law in combination with another discipline. Lots of law graduates, on the other hand, have very successful careers outside of legal practice. So law is a good foundation in combination with other disciplines for a variety of different careers. And the key point is that Maynooth gives you a lot of flexibility to combine law with the study of other disciplines, to combine, let's say, law and history, law and politics, law and business, again, being another good example. And there's a lot of flexibility in terms of, you may start in the BA, you might finish on the LLB. So a lot of flexibility in terms of combining law and switching from, as I say, arts to law is possible, provided that you do law in first year and you pass law in first year. I'm going to hand over now to Amy Hughes to talk. Amy is a student in year 3 of the LLB. I'm just going to hand over to Amy now.
Perfect. Thank you, Professor. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so just kind of going off a couple of the points that were very kindly raised, there's definitely so many options when it comes to law. So talking a little bit about my route and how I came in, I studied a PLC. I didn't study in law, although I wanted to go into law. So I studied philosophy, history, English literature, and politics. That to me was a good base to go into a law degree. You don't have to study law before going in, like say that for any secondary school student who's maybe a little bit nervous. So I haven't covered law, I know I answered a question there on academic writing. You don't need to know how to write academically. That's all kind of skills you're going to learn. So I went in and I studied the MH502 program, which is the BCL Law and Criminology. I really enjoyed it, but from getting that year, I realized I actually really loved to specialize in pure law. So that's why I moved in. I found it to be a very easy process. There was no difficulty with it. The department were extremely helpful for any questions I had or any queries I had relating to it. So I definitely think it was really advisory and really helpful with my degree and how I possessed them. So then what I advise and what I say to students coming in is Maynooth for me, and why I took law was mainly because they really have this emphasis on balancing the practical with the theory. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, a law degree is quite hard. Every degree is going to be quite difficult. There's no easy degree. It's a lot of work, but it's work that pays off. And I advise definitely take what you're interested in and what you like. So I was very happy to balance out the practical with the theory. So example is one of my first year modules is negligence law, which we call tort law. That kind of looks at maybe there's different cases where people maybe were having negligent partners, negligent work firms, all these kind of things. Very, very interesting work. And I got to participate in a mock trial, which is basically a fake court. So you go in, you dress up as suits, you wear your blazers, and you get to shout, I object. But for me, that was really an experience of, wow, this is what a career in law could look like. And they've continued that throughout my degree. So I just finished my ADR assignment, which is a negotiation. So you go in, you negotiate. I had to do a football player's contract, and that was really interesting to me of what that could look like as a career. So that's really helpful. From that, then I've even gone on, and I know it was mentioned about the National Mookware competition. I was lucky enough to participate in that this year, and Maynooth actually won, not my team, another team won the award, which was amazing and a very big honor. But there is a lot of opportunities like that. The international negotiation competitions and another thing that's massive. And I'm lucky enough that I now have judged a couple of negotiation competitions from my experience with doing them. So you can really build up your CV from being engaged and really getting involved. But that would be kind of my tips and my advice. I have loved my degree so far. I'm very sad that next year is my last year, and hopefully I might stay on and do a master's in law because I just think there's so much to it. I wouldn't be worried about certain elements of it. You can pick and choose wherever you'd like. I think for me, going into the BCL was my best choice. It was the best thing for me to do. I wanted to see what it'd be like to study it with something else, and I'm glad I did, but I'm also glad I transferred. For me, it was a different experience. In terms of maybe what I'd like to do afterwards, I'm not 100% sure. It's between barrister or solicitor. You don't have to go in either of those routes. As it was mentioned, there's a million other things you could do with your degree. It's such an amazing and valuable thing to have. But I am thinking of maybe going into commercial law. I am currently the brand ambassador for A&L Goodbye, which is a job I got offered from being so involved in Maynooth and being involved in the law societies and the mooting and really making those connections and making my time worthwhile. So they've exposed me to now what maybe a life in commercial law might look like. But the world is technically your oyster in every way. So yeah, and the support you get is just incredible. So I think that's everything for me.
Thanks so much, Jamie. That's great, and it's great to hear of your experience. And I think it's also really important to hear from a student who has been in Maynooth. I think that's always very valuable. So I am very, very grateful. Thank you so much for sharing of your experience. And very best wishes with your ongoing studies, to both you and Jamie as well. Just to finally say, just in relation to law and criminology, if you've any, if you're looking for more information, just bear in mind the university website, maynoothuniversity.ie. There's a lot of useful information there. You can email us at law@mu.ie, and you can also follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn. On Instagram, I think we're at Maynooth Law, and on LinkedIn, we're the School of Law and Criminology. I'm going to hand back now, though, to Judith.
Excellent. Many thanks to all our speakers. Thank you, Professor Ryan, Professor Coughlin, Amy, Jamie, and yes, indeed, thanks for joining us this evening. Should note that we have two open days coming up. One in April on the 25th and one in June on the 27th. And they're both on Saturdays. So hopefully you can join us in person on those days. And in the meantime, any questions, please do email them through to ugadmissions@mu.ie. And as my colleague said, you can contact them directly as well. Okay, that's the end of our webinar. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all the questions. Thank you.